All right, so again, yesterday we worked a lot on layering. So the layering that we worked on gave you the ability to add a variety of layers. And I also was sharing a little bit about deleting or removing from layers. But now I'm going to have you actually adding on multiple colors and multiple things in one layer just to notice the difference, okay? So if I make a new layer and I rename it multi, that'll just help you remember. A recall from yesterday. This is your eyeball. So this gives you the ability to turn on and off visibility of a layer. So let's say I'm not really sure I'm liking that green rectangle. I can turn that layer off. That's why working in different layers is really helpful, because you can really decide whether or not to include it. Also really helpful to have a variety of things on different layers for the sake of being able to do that easily. Now, if I put on this green rectangle layer, if I had another green rectangle over here, it's either I have to leave them both on, or I'll have to delete one, or turn them both off. So it is really important to decide what you're going to put. Is it a big deal to delete something? No. You could even go to your eraser. That's in the middle, kind of in the middle of your left toolbar. I click and hold just to show you the options that are under there. If the eraser is showing, all you have to do is click on it to use it. You don't have to do this and that. I see a lot of people doing that, but you actually don't need to. I will do that during my demo so that you will see if for some reason you had another tool showing, it'll allow you to see, oh, that's where the eraser is. It's under that tool, but that one wasn't showing, so now I'm no longer confused. So again, if that's what Paint Bucket's showing, I'm going to use it. If it's not showing or I need the other tool, I'm going to do that. So if I use the eraser, I'm going to show you a little bit about brush styles right up in here. This top menu will change. Every single time you click on something here, you will see a different menu bar of selections there. So whenever I'm on things like my brushes or my clone stamp or my eraser, I'm going to find it gives me options. Okay, I want you to know what your options are. First of all, if you click right here, you have the option to change the style of brush you have. Most oftenly used are going to be solid, hard, round brushes, or a soft, almost like an airbrush kind of an edge. Okay? Size, make it larger, make it smaller. And then hardness will also change whether or not the edge is soft and fuzzy or a very precise edge. Okay? So I'm on a hard, round brush right now. I go onto here, and then what I discover is that the brush is teeny tiny. So if I'm erasing this, it's going to take me a really long time. When you first get started, the easiest way to remember how to change your brush size is by dropping down, increasing your size, put it back, and then use it that way. But there's a keyboard shortcut that will save a lot of time. Your bracket keys on your keyboard, they're located pretty much right above your Enter key on the keyboard. The right bracket makes your brush larger. Left bracket makes your brush smaller. That is one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts because I have my left hand on the bracket keys, my right hand on the mouse or the stylus or the touchpad, whatever you're using, and it makes it so much easier because I could just make it really big and I could literally erase that in one click. Notice if I go over the top of this one, it doesn't erase because that's on a different layer. Okay? History. You are going to do things that you will test out and not like. So we fix it. You come over to your history. Again, if that's not showing, a little review, Windows, and history. It's a 3-step, it looks like 3 squares with an arrow. And I want to show that to you. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. This is everything that I have done since I opened up this document. Today doesn't show anything from yesterday. So history does not carry over from one day to the next. The history, once again, is also not infinite. It's not going to show me everything I did today. So when I get to the end of the class period, I can't go back to this first elliptical marquee tool. It's really important for you guys to know that. It'll only have a certain number of steps it will store. So be very thoughtful about that. So in case you need to undo something by going back in history, you can still do that within a reasonable amount of time. So let's say I would really want to go back to when I had that green rectangle there because I actually did like it. I can go one step back. There it is right there. Some of you will start to recognize the step and actually just go straight to that step instead of backing it up one at a time. Now notice these are now ghosted. They are light gray. Notice I also didn't take and drag it down to the garbage can. Please do not erase from your history. That can oftentimes lead your picture to unhappy places. Certain things, if you delete from history, it affects something else to where it's all of a sudden just blowing up in your face. So literally just back up naturally. That's where I want to be, and I'm going to start there because I actually want to add a little bit more of a shape onto there. Watch what happens right here as I'm working. You're going to watch what happens. All these eraser marks are going to naturally disappear with the next move. All gone. I'm going to go back to my paint bucket and I'm going to add that little piece on. A reminder for selecting, you can deselect here or a quick Control D. So I've just added that little extra piece onto there. I've learned how to work with my history and I've learned not to delete from history. Just don't do it. One day it's going to backfire and you're going to be very sad. These double arrows right here, that's how you push it back into there. You can also click right back on the icon. Okay? So, when I go to my multi-layer, let's say I just want to concentrate on that. I can turn off my eyeball like I was talking about a few minutes ago. I can start to work on a few different things. First of all, I'm going to go to my square. I'm going to go ahead and drop in a square. And I'm going to go to my swatches and I'm going to say, I love purple. I'm going to paint bucket or edit fill with my foreground color, which is purple in this case, so you can do either. I can then come through. Notice I didn't deselect by naturally creating a new selection on there. It has overridden the old one, but you can deselect. Let's say I'm going to do sort of a rainbow effect. Oh, guess what I forgot? I forgot to switch tools. There we go. Go back. Switch tools. Switch the color. Go back. Switch the color. Rectangular marquee tool. Switch the color. Oh, that's a really funky rainbow. Sorry about that. My quick color selection's a little off today. All right, so I can deselect, and I've got that particular rainbow. Okay, so that's multicolors on one layer. You can also start to work with gradient fills. I'm going to go ahead and use a gradient fill for a circle. Hold the Shift key, it'll be a perfect circle. A gradient fill. Gradient fills are a lot of fun, so I want you to kind of play around with that. Underneath your paint bucket, you blow out that menu, and you're going to see a gradient tool. Right up in here is the current gradient that is loaded for your computer. If you click on the actual gradient, you're going to see that there are some presets in there. So let's say this rainbow is a lot happier than mine. I'm going to go ahead with that one. Then we have about 5 different options for it, which are pretty cool. So this is a normal linear gradient that looks like this. When you click and drag a line, I'm going to get a rainbow. Okay? This one is a radial gradient. So when I click and drag a radius, it's going to give me a radial gradient. Let's say, though, I don't want it to start with those purples in the middle. I want it to start with the reds and yellows. I can reverse it. Right up in here in that top menu, I can reverse it. I can go back over the top of it, and you can see that I've actually been able to reverse those colors. I could drag it further out and get bigger stripes and less of those other colors. So it really does depend on how you drag the gradient in there. A little tiny gradient line, a little tiny radial line gives you a lot of that outer color, okay? Next one is a reflected gradient. Oh, I'm sorry, an angle gradient. Again, click and drag it, and you're going to get some really cool effects from that. It almost looks like a cone. This one is the reflected gradient. Reflected gradient, again, another radius, and you're going to get sort of stripes of color like it's a reflection. And then this final one, you will have a diamond gradient. That diamond gradient will give you a diamond-like pattern, okay? Changing your gradient is as simple as just picking a new one. Let's say you pick this one, but I want blue, red, and I don't want this yellow. I want purple. You can change it by clicking on this color right here. Click. I click on this to change it, so I'm click on color. And then I'm going to scroll to my purples, pick the best purple for the one that I guess would match. I could even move some of these around to blend things a little bit more. Maybe I want more purple, a little less blue. And I would say, okay, I could then use that. I'm going to go to the radial gradient. And I've got those as my new gradients. Okay? So those are all options for filling in layers. Those are all options for putting multiple colors in layers. And again, I really want you to take some time now. As you get onto this layer, I can go ahead and select and deselect. And maybe I want to erase something from there. I could erase by using one of my marquee tools and deleting. But take a look at this one. I could go right here to this polygonal lasso tool. Polygonal lasso tool. Some people will say polygonal. It's polygonal. You can go ahead and click, 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 click. And then when you get close enough, that little tiny circle pops up. That little tiny circle says, hey, you're close enough to where you started to close out this selection. And when you click, it'll give you, again, a crawling ants. Crawling ants means you have a closed selection and you're ready to proceed. Whether you're going to take and maybe fill that with a solid color. Oh, I would have to actually fill that one in because it doesn't want to fill it in that way. I could fill the whole shape in, or I could delete it, and that could be part of my design. Okay? I can also work with the erasers. Some of the erasers, if you scroll down, you will find that there are even some shapes in there. We'll talk about getting a variety of brushes downloaded to your computers as needed. Again, recall, right bracket key makes it larger. Left bracket key makes it smaller. Again, using it in part or in total. Also rotating it, which we'll talk about. It's a little fancier. We won't talk about that right now. But I could actually erase through there. Now, what I want you to notice is notice it didn't erase fully. Whenever you have something not functioning as expected, I want you to look up in here. Okay? Now, when I look up in here, my opacity is at 100%. My flow is at 100%. I'm on brush. So as of this point, I really don't exactly know why it's not erasing all of the way. I was actually expecting to see that this was lower. Because if that opacity is lower, it'll take some away, but not all away. You want to make sure that if you want it all taken away, that you're at 100%. But if it's still not functioning at 100% and all those things are normal, you may have to click it just a couple of times. Okay? So I've clicked it a couple of times. It removed all of those excess pieces in there. And now you're ready to get moving again with more selections, more additions, more deletions, and just some time to play around with these options. I know I gave you a lot of options, but I really want you to kind of mess around before we start moving into our first project. That's all. Just don't forget, make sure you're watching what layer you're working on, your visibility, what selector tool you are using, as well as how it affects your top menu. Finally, looking at ways to add color, and again, working into those layers and which layer you're going to be adding or subtracting from. And that is what we're doing today, guys.